Right, and we are live here on the Monster Report Live. Thank you, everyone, for joining us here. The Monster Report's a show highlighting those entertaining creatures of film history. I've got a new setup here, a lot of new stuff going on, so let me know in the chat if you cannot hear us, if you're having trouble hearing us or seeing us, but I think so far so good. And I'd like to introduce for the first time on the Monster Report Live, first live stream for him. Who is he?
Eli Adam of the Mini Monster Report.
That's right. Eli's here joining me because he's been a big part of the Monster Report ever since, well, he was born. So, he's been a little guy, been in the show and helping me unbox figures. Now he's got his own YouTube channel, the Mini Monster Report. So check that out. Subscribe to his channel. And obviously you're going to subscribe here at the Monster Report, getting close to that 100,000 subscribers. Thanks to you guys out there. And I want you guys to join in the chat for this Monster Report live discussion, talking about all things Titanic Creations. You excited about this, man?
Yeah!
All right, we're going to bring in our guests. But first, what do they got to do?
In every video, like, subscribe, comment down below, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, X, formerly known as Twitter.
I'm gonna make X a thing. That's what I'm doing. That X from Final Wars, your favorite Godzilla movie, right?
Not quite.
Not quite. Okay. Yeah, gotcha.
The 2014 is kind of my thing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And if you haven't had the chance to already, check out our Gorgo episode that we had where we unboxed the 30 centimeter Titanic Creations Gorgo. Yeah. Love this figure. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it is amazing, especially with no articulation points.
No articulation. We already got the articulated little Gorgo, so now we've got. But what was his name? What was this one's name?
Ogra.
Yeah, but we call this Gorgo because it's Gorgo Bomb. So yeah, we'll bring Gorgo back in a second. But I'd like to bring in our special guests, and I have a co-host today. Let's bring in and welcome Adam from Thursday Toys.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Yes. Yeah. And thank you for last minute helping me co-host. And I knew you were a fan of Titanic Creations. So
just a little bit.
He's got, I think you probably got the complete original kaijus that they have, right?
Yeah.
I think so. I don't know.
Titanicus, Scoraeus, right? Graphixus,
Nosferodon.
Nosferodon, yeah. And that's all their specifically their exclusive ones, they're all exclusive, I guess, but they're
like original creations.
Original, yes. And we have, of course, their licensed figures, Gorgo, and soon another cool kaiju we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about that with Mr. Mac McClintock of Titanic Creations. I always catch him mid-sip.
Always.
He's always like, Talk to Max for a second here while I take a sip.
I just want to say I loved your plushie. I thought it was the most cutest thing of the whole Titanic Creations collection.
Yeah, I really love the Gorgo plushie. He's so soft and huggable, and he also looks a little doofy, which I think is what you need in the plushie line. So I was actually really happy with that.
The back coffee beans. I love it.
Oh yeah. Perfect.
Yeah. And of course we picked up that plush at the Tucson Kaiju Festival where we got to meet Mac in person and sit next to him at our tables were right next to each other. So it was an awesome time meeting in person. And one other person that Mac has not met in person, but he's going to see him virtually for the first time face-to-face, is Nick Shev. Nick!
Hey! How's it going, everybody?
Doing good.
Thanks for having me on here.
Yeah, we'll be referring to Nick Shev as Nick Shev. Nick Adam, Nick Shev.
Nick Shev.
And Nick Adam Griffin. And Matt. And Eli Adam. Actually, we have 3 Adams because Tokusatsu BTS said 2 Adams. Actually, Adam Griffin, Nick Adam, Eli Adam. So, wow. Yeah. It just goes and goes and goes. So, thank you all for being here today. And again, everyone out there, like, subscribe, all these things. And we're going to talk some Titanic Creations, things that are coming up, things that we already have. and just unboxed Gorgo like I talked about. Mac, start talking to me about, kind of the life cycle of what happened with this 30 centimeter Gorgo, because we had the small one, which we talked about on several episodes. And of course, some people out there have them. And of course, we had the comic Gorgo, the comic version of Gorgo that was out there. But this guy, I pre-ordered him. Actually, my dad pre-ordered him in Christmas, and we got him recently, and everyone's starting to get theirs. Tell me kind of about what went into all this.
So this was always originally going to happen after the first articulated one, just because Dope sculpt for this is really stunning. I mean, just if you have it in hand, it really does deserve to have one that isn't cut up into a million pieces like an articulated figure. And so we started working on this late October, and I think that was my first pitfall into why this ended up taking so long. So then this one, we didn't sell as many of these guys as we did the smaller ones, which, I think is a shame, because I think these are much more interesting to look at on a shelf. But then we extended the funding. It got funded in the end of December, right after Christmas. And then we started production. We got the tooling done, and then Chinese New Year happens, which takes a month off. Basically, no one in China does anything for all of February, which is difficult. And then we finally got them done in April, and there's not to talk about really boring things like freight shipping, but there's a lot of backups on
Freight shipping.
getting things into the United States right now. So they ended up, I think it took 8 weeks for these things to actually get to Denver, but they did get here, and I did get them all shipped out. So if you ordered one of these guys, he is on the way, or he should already be there, most likely.
All right, let us know in the chat if you received your Gorgo, and if you're still waiting on it. So I'm sure Matt can figure that out for you. He was gracious enough. I was talking to him, over text, and it was like, I know that there's always some supply chain issues that are out there, and it got so bad for me in a Varan that I had ordered from Japan, actually, that it just never showed up at all. So yeah, I'm going to have to hold us right there for a second to introduce our next guest, Mr. Matt Frank.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Matt Frank.
Hi.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm glad I could pop in. I actually was trying to be ready to go at 8, and I spent the last 8 minutes fighting with my microphone because it wasn't showing up. So, because there always has to be a technical issue. So
it always happens at showtime, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of course.
I want to be. I know you're generous.
Hi,
with your
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you, and I want to be, understanding of your time and all that. And if you had a cutoff at any point, let us know.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we'll see where we're at around, the next half hour or so. I got spiffied up because I have a friend's going away party to go to this evening, and it's summertime, so that's when I bust out the popsicle suit. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. And I'll give a second for Eli to tell Matt a little bit of something, because he's a big admirer of your art, and
awesome.
he's so on cloud 9 right now that you're here. So, and then I'll give Adam the chance to ask maybe the next question here. So, Eli, tell Matt the project that you had.
So, I actually ended up doing a school project on you.
Oh my goodness.
About your art.
That's awesome. Is it all done? Is it all turned in, or are you still working on it?
Oh, I'm definitely done with it.
Okay, good.
It's been like weeks since I've done it.
Okay, good.
It's a writing project.
Yeah, it was a writing project. Most of it I typed out on a computer.
He's
great.
He's homeschooled, so my wife, Mom, she's the teacher, of course. She's the superintendent, principal, all of those things to our homeschool. So she's a very good teacher. And pick a subject, and write about them a couple of pages, and it's, you know, graded upon, you know, your research. And he did the research on Mr. Matt Frank, and he's loved your comics, your artwork for the boxes, and all kinds of things that you've worked on. So yeah, he's just, and we're just glad to have you. So thank you so much for popping in.
Well, don't I feel honored? I'm smiling from ear to ear. That means a lot. I really appreciate that. That's, you know, I've had stuff written about me, or I've done interviews and whatnot. But whenever I hear it, somebody has like written like a school paper, about me, I'm just like, oh my God, what I do does make a difference. So that's really flattering. I really appreciate that.
All right, thank you. And we'll have some questions for some artwork that you've been doing with Mac and Titanic Creations in a second. Adam, I'll let you go for the next question.
So this is something I've been wondering for a while. Early on in the Titanic Creations line of figures, there were small, like, I think they're resin versions of each of the original kaiju. Any possibility of those coming back?
So I actually have just a box that's been in storage, just because those can't be shipped anywhere, because if they get jostled at all, they break almost instantly. So if anyone's watching and wants those, just like send me a DM on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and I should be able to dig them out. But they're not painted. Like I think we made 4 of them. They were painted for G-Fest before COVID, so it's 2019. But yeah, those are available if someone does want them, and I do need to get rid of them because they're just
I'm in
a garage.
I'll help you clean out space.
Nice. Actually, I'm gonna get some chats in here. We got across the Adamverse, all the Adams that we have. Yeah. Kaiju United, Jacob, good to have you.
Hi, Jacob.
Yeah, Dina Mundo's asking about a live action project by Gorgo. Gorgo puts on projects.
So I think Dino Mundo, he's been working on a project himself, and I think you guys should. He's over on his own personal YouTube channel, and I know he's putting a lot of effort into that, and he's been sharing it.
I will hit you up, Dino, on that. Maybe we'll have you as a guest if you'd like to talk about that, because I'm always about promoting kaiju content creation here. So that is awesome. So yeah, let me bring in Nick talking about some artwork, and maybe we'll even talk, Matt, about some artwork. Of course, we have the beautiful box art for the 30 centimeter Gorgo. And Matt, of course, did the smaller Gorgo figure box art too. And I know, Matt, you did the Vinegar Syndrome disc, didn't you? Yeah. I just we just announced the Reptilicus set from Vinegar Syndrome as well. Oh wow!
But last year was definitely the year of Gorgo.
Yeah, and Nick's jumped on board with this too. I love having different takes on the artwork that's a box art. This is I'm going to keep both. I've already got Gorgo, the other the articulated one. This one's going to be part of the collection too when I cut that right off of there. So tell me what kind of went into making up something with this scale in mind, the color schemes, all of that.
Well, for me, like, I grew up on Gorgo. Like, Gorgo, that movie is ingrained in my DNA. Like, I love that movie. I love that character. So you have all these ideas of like how it should look and how it should be portrayed, and the color scheme and the scenes and the setting. And of course, they released the smaller figure, the year before, and I didn't want to try to duplicate that art. So I wanted to try to do more of a traditional illustrative, front and center full shot of the character in a good pose with some, scenery around it. And and Matt, you probably had the same feeling when you were working on yours. But one of the funner things about working on Gorgo was actually doing the buildings. And instead of doing like skyscrapers or pagodas, it's trying to get cobblestone streets and brick buildings from 1960s London. And that was just like a nice, fun change of pace. It's not just, Godzilla with the general kind of landscape he's always in. It's like, oh no, there's a completely different scene, completely different monster, completely different landmarks. And I wanted to try to incorporate all of that into it because it really makes Gorgo stand out from the lexicon of giant monster films out there.
Yeah, I was gonna say one thing I meant to say, Nick, is that the box art that you did really is lovely. I love the vibrancy of the colors and everything.
Thank you. I really wanted to go for that, like that hellish red glow when she's like trashing through everything and the sky is just red on fire and she's just plowing through to get to her baby. It's great.
It's so interesting because I didn't realize how green she was until I saw the Arrow box set. Finally saw the Arrow remaster of it. But yeah, that color that I love that you also channeled the hellish vibe, just there's a vibe that movie has that's really, it kind of feels like the world is ending. Like it feels so apocalyptic.
Yeah.
And something that I also notice as far as buildings go in London, especially that time period, is there's so many little chimney stacks. There's so many little yeah.
They're popping up all over the place.
Did you have a question?
When you said like an end of the world thing, you should probably recall that guy with the signs on his back. Repent, the end is nigh.
He's my favorite character. I put him in both my box art and the Arrow set. Nick, you didn't happen to squeeze him into yours, did you?
No, I didn't put any human characters in there. I think the biggest Easter egg I have is like the Gorgo bus is like in a pile of rubble. Yeah, it's down in the corner there.
Oh yeah. Awesome.
There.
That Dorkin always trying to promote his circus. You got to put it in there.
It's got to be Britain with its double-decker bus. Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing with this packaging, because I do a lot of graphic design for my like 9-to-5 stuff, was doing the text layout and the type treatment for that. I really wanted to play up the old posters for Gorgo because they were like big, bold, kind of like 1960s mod styled fonts, and I had to recreate them. Like I was trying to find one that was close enough, but wasn't entirely it. So I said, screw it. I'm just going to start from scratch and do each of these letters individually so I can spell out, Dope Pope in this particular font. And
nice.
Just throwing like the big yellow Nick Adam, if you want to turn that box around. Just like those taglines is great. This is the big one, like nothing you've ever seen before. It's great. It's kitsch, it's camp, and I love those old posters, and I just think it screams the movie.
Yeah, it does.
They're very cool. I love that. I definitely channeled some of the old posters as well. Like I even went into I tried to find the highest quality scans of the old posters I could, because I was actually trying to pull elements directly from them, like just certain city streets and stuff, or just like something that I could like. It's just something to kind of give it that feel. And I think I put way too much work into it because, and I think I've told Mac about this, just that I put so much work into that first Gorgo box. And then when I started doing the Ongari box, I was just like, I'm not doing that. But I mean, well, I'm trying to
think about hindsight.
Well, you're trying to make it look good. You want it to look good. You want to tap into like detail and make it real nice and visually crunchy. But you're also trying not to spend a week on it because you have other stuff to do. So
right.
It's difficult. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. I love that idea. And Jacob's talking a little about that idea that old movie trailers where the text is flying at the screen. Godzilla did this too. Even the classic King Kong trailer. And I did channel that in the remake I did of Godzilla versus Kong, the legendary remake of the trailer I did, actually, where it's using the old King Kong versus Godzilla title cards flying at you. So check out that trailer. But yeah, there is something about what was marketed to people, in those days and what grabbed your attention, because they're trying to get you to the theater. They're not trying to get you on, because streaming didn't exist and television, versions of these were few and far between. So they're really trying to get you excited to go to the theaters. So having big font and big, cracks in it and all of that, and really trying to grab attention with the yellow colors. Yeah, you definitely channeled something. And the British landscape and all. We'll get some chats in here, and then Adam, I'll let you take the next one. Yeah, it's not Nick Adams from Frankenstein. It's Nick Adams, singular. That is my name, even though that is my middle name, Nick Adam. A lot of people don't think that it's true, but it is. Have you gotten licensing right for Reptilicus and Conga yet, Mac?
No.
No.
Currently not.
Reptilicus.
I think.
Talk.
I think Reptilicus is a ways away right now. And then Conga is a different animal altogether. We've been working on some 2 really big licensing things that I can't talk about right now. But if they actually can get done, I think it'll be a really exciting stuff for everyone in the community. But
Stay tuned.
I realize I need to not talk about things until there's ink on paper.
Gotcha. Yeah, like I said, stay tuned. And yeah, I know that Reptilicus is interesting, and we talked a little about that. But yeah, the and I misquoted. Sorry, I misinformed Matt. It was not Vinegar Syndrome for Gorgo, was it? It was Arrow for Gorgo, wasn't it?
No, actually that's a little story, if I may. It's kind of funny because I believe I was talking to Mac about Gorgo stuff, doing like the box art and doing the plush design and everything. And then I was thinking like, hey, Mac, you like have contacts and whatnot, I believe. And I think I talked to him about, I think I talked to him about this. Yeah. If I'm remembering the timeline correctly, I said, well, maybe I can talk to the peeps over at Arrow, and maybe they'd want to do, because they're based in the UK, maybe they'd want to do a Gorgo release or something. So I reached out to James Flower, who was my contact on the Gamera set for Arrow. And I talked to him and I said, hey, you know, there's a possibility here. I think this would be really cool. And then he said, oh, some old friends of mine at Vinegar Syndrome are actually handling that. Do you want to work on it? And I'm like, okay. So he just like fired me over to them, and then they reached out to me, and then they were like, oh, hey, we heard that you were, you know, wanting to do you know, packaging art for Arrow, and I'm just packaging art for Gorgo, and I'm just like, that can happen. So it just it was just so funny how it was this weird little like circuitous thing of just yeah, there it is. Just reaching out and asking the right people the right questions. So yeah, I'm glad for how all that shook out. Oh, and it is funny because in that Gorgo box set, there's the fold out poster of the anatomy artwork for Gorgo, which is actually the line art from the Gorgo action figure cover, the box art, because I could not be bothered to draw an entirely new Gorgo. I mean, I just ran out of, you know, it's just one of those things where it's like, look, we got to save time here, guys. So, but it was really fun to do. And Mac, if I remember correctly, I think I asked your permission for that first, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay,
We're
good.
All good. Nothing bad.
Yeah, good. All right.
And I think these were limited, weren't they? The ones with the extra box art and the extra art interior.
You know, I believe so. It was some kind of limited edition, yeah. Which is very cool.
They would give you, if you were early enough on it, you got the whole box art set. But I guess later on, you could just get the 4K, you know, on the interior without the extras. But yeah, if it's out there, that is a beautiful artwork, and the transfer looks so good. I mean, you know, it was for a while until we had that Blu-ray. Who was that who released it a few years ago that had the rights, Mac, that you got?
VCI.
Yeah, VCI
Entertainment.
And it was an all right, you know, it was definitely an all right transfer, but, you know, compared to what we used to have, which was not much of anything, you know, an old DVD, and there was the VHS tapes. So yeah, get some more chat in here, and we will proceed on with Adam's question. Sorry, Adam, I keep putting you back here.
No.
You watch Yongari Reincarnation Part 1, Matt?
I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
Young Gary, hold on, I'm gonna Google it.
Okay.
Well, does anybody know what that is?
That's news to me. Maybe it's something he's working on. This Dino.
Oh,
Mundo.
there it is. Yeah, it's on his YouTube channel.
Yup.
Okay.
Yeah. Ooh.
Okay. We'll all check something out after the stream, right?
Yeah, I'll save this for later. Oh yeah, it's fun. It's CG, and I love that it uses the the Young Gary 2001 design.
Oh,
Nice.
That is fun. Saving
Beautiful.
that for later.
Yes. Yeah, Mac, a question for you.
After Titanic, I'm not really sure what we're going to be doing as far as the Soul War line, since I mean most of my time has been kind of swarmed into these license projects, and I think hopefully August, September, I'm able to share more about what we've been working on behind the scenes, and it's going to take up probably 2025, 26 before I can really even start thinking about other things. But Titanicus is coming. It's been sitting as a digital file for about 2 years now, and I decided to actually finally bring it to life, and it'll be at G-Fest this year. If anyone wants to see a physical prototype, we can start seeing good old different plastics that we're using this time around.
And this kind of goes into that too, making an Apex Graphixus.
I would love to. It's actually one of my favorite designs in the book. I don't know if you've ever gotten to the end of it. I know Adam probably has. It's kind of, I don't want to spoil anything for anyone who hasn't read it, but it's the big bad guy at the end, very much like a Power Ranger kind of ending to the book.
One more question for Mac, and then I'll switch over to Adam, and we have a few more questions in the chat, so you guys stand by. Jacob's asking, did you build the Titanicus costume he saw at AMA?
I did not, and I think everyone here who has worked with me, Matt, Nick, knows that I'm not an artist. I'm very much a guy who puts numbers into a spreadsheet. But Dennis Lancaster, who he's out of San Francisco, he made that costume. He also made several other Godzilla costumes. If you guys haven't looked him up, his you just search Dennis Lancaster, and I think it's custom fabrication online. You can see he's done an amazing amount of stuff. And I actually want to talk about this a little bit more. But Dennis actually went blind while making the Titanicus costume and finished almost the entire back half of it without his eyesight, which is
whoa,
goodness.
So
wow.
If you ever get really up close and personal with Titanicus, you can see under some of the spikes there's blood from where he would nick himself with a needle, and there's just little tiny drops and everything. It really is an amazing costume if you guys have ever seen it in person.
Yeah.
I have.
The story behind it almost makes it more wholesome and kind of always brings a smile to my face when I talk about it.
Yeah. That's incredible. I love that. I don't love that he lost his eyesight, but that's a great story. Oh my gosh.
That is incredible. And it's things like that just put those kinds of stories, those kinds of his work on the map like that. And that is cool. And I'm sure not a lot of people have heard that story. Obviously, I don't think anyone here has. So I'm glad you got to share that. So Adam, take it away.
Yeah, I've been curious about like the licensing side of things. And like I know with Gorgo you had the articulated figure, you got the big statue, you got the graphic novel, you've got the comic color version. And I was wondering, like, are these things that you negotiate for specifically, or do they just say, here's the license, do with it kind of what you want?
So when we did Gorgo, it was very open-ended. It was just kind of like, do as many things as you want. By, I think, the end of this year is when our license finally expires to do stuff with Gorgo. With Young Gary, because of the language disconnect and also how we had to go about getting a license there, they just wanted to do a set number of figures, and then if we want to do anything after that, we have to negotiate with them on a new contract, which makes it a little bit more difficult to do things quickly. But still, I was very grateful that we were able to get in contact with the family who is the rights holders to that over in Korea. I know a lot of people, I mean, they have been lost in a big way, and there's even an American studio who like claims they have the rights to Young Gary, and the family over there is very upset about that. And they even mentioned through their agent to tell me that as a warning in advance. But it was so that's kind of how it goes. Sometimes it's a project based where it's like a limited number, and then sometimes it's just kind of like, here's X amount you have to pay for each new project. and then we just kind of rolls all together.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I know that there's so much that goes into those licensing and, what you can and can't do. And what you just said really brings us into a conversation about young Gary. And if I can bring this up without losing us, we're still live, guys, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
I believe
good.
so.
Yeah. So yeah, I definitely wanted to bring out our artists that we have here present today and do kind of a combination of both of them because they're both beautiful in so many ways, and put Yongari and Gorgo together here. And I know, Matt, you'll be working on the box art for Yongari. Tell me about, guys, the just all that's going to be in this figure, the story, Mac, of course, of the bringing it to funding, and where it's going from here.
So just kind of speaking about the Kickstarter-esque thing we did. So when we started Young Gary, I decided I was going to be crazy and put far too much into this set, and it's definitely not been it's a very big box that they're telling me now, because we're basically sending you a play set at this point. You get a bridge, you get 3 oil tankers, you get this beautiful, they call it a gate in Korea. I'm not going to try to pronounce the first name of it just because I'm going to mess it up. Then you get the horn effect, you get the fire breath, you get 3 tanks, you get 3 jets. I think it's the most stuff that's ever been thrown into a $100 figure this side of the 21st century. And then kind of passing that off, like we want to bring Matt back on board, just especially for continuity purposes in this line. And I'll let him kind of just talk about what he's been kind of drawing up and kind of what he leaned into to, build the box art for this.
Well, yeah, as far as Young Gary goes, it was, I just approached it the same way I approached Gorgo, because, Mac and I have been talking a fair bit, about various projects and about just staying, like you said, keeping continuity and whatnot. And with Young Gary, it was interesting because I ran to a few challenges with the box art, because with Gorgo, there's so much in-universe branding, like in the movie with the big signs and everything, and Dorkin Circus and all that. The box really kind of wound up building itself. Whereas with Yongari, I kind of, again, trying to keep continuity. I wanted some in continuity, stuff for like I didn't want to just plaster Yongari's name on the back of it, for example. I've got a solution for that I've been working on that I has not been shown off yet, but it'll be one of those classic, because there is a lot of neon in the movie, and I thought it would be fun to just have a big neon sign that says Yongari on it, that's like it's still kind of inexplicably on in the middle of this burning city. But there are a lot of like really interesting landmarks that if you listen to the commentary track on the Yongari Blu-ray, you get a lot of really interesting little bits of history. I think there's not a metropolitan building. There's like a government building that Yongari destroys at one point that was originally, I think, the government headquarters for the Japanese occupying forces in Seoul, I think. And he very explicitly destroys that building. I might be getting those details wrong, but I think that was, and I think that was part of it. And there's just lots of, it's such, the landscape is also so different, because Korea has a lot of Southeast Asia has these really big jutting mountains that stick right up out of the ground. And so that gives a really different silhouette in certain scenes too. But like I said, the Gorgo box art, while a lot of fun, I went way too hard on it. And so I had to rein it in. I had to really reel it in and be like, okay, let's maybe not entire crowds, Although the one thing I thought was fun, just from a cheeky perspective, is the little explosions, the rocket fire explosions on Youngari's hide and everything. Those are pretty much exactly the exact same assets from the Gorgo box art. Something about that was really funny to me, like how a lot of older Showa kaiju media uses the same explosion sound effect. That same explosion shows up in everything. So I thought, like, well, maybe I'll just like take these and just put them over here. And I actually think I've used them in a couple of different things because I just love the way they look. They've got that fun little like firework quality to them. But anyway, I'm trying to think if there's anything else specific. I finally okay, last thing. The gate. What's the name of that gate that's in the movie? It's got a.
It starts with an N.
Yeah, it's that very traditional looking
building. It's the
gate.
If anyone in the chat knows, let us know.
Yeah.
Young Gary avoids it.
Yeah, so that gate is going to be on the box, but I was trying to get references for it, and I was scrubbing through like YouTube or other, like, for some reason I couldn't find my Young Gary Blu-ray. I think it's in a box somewhere. Like, I just never unpacked it after I moved here. It's somewhere, but so I was just like, oh, I'll just find it on YouTube, and I'm just scrolling through it, and then I'm like, oh man, this quality is really bad. Well, I guess I can try and draw it from this transfer. And I was having so much trouble with it. And then I just said, the box doesn't need to be done immediately. I'll finish it later. And then the campaign went live, and Max started, and the Titanicus folks started posting photos of the accessories. And I was like, you guys have references for that gate. So that was when I was like, send me high resolution references you have. So that was that. You know, I don't know why I didn't just think to ask. But yeah,
you shall receive. Yeah, absolutely. I was going to get a question in for the chat. I want to start with Nick, bring him in more of the conversation here, and go around the room here, guys. All give us our opinions on. Take a couple of minutes. Tell me about your thoughts on the films. Gorgo, Yongari, Pogasari as the movies. So Nick, if you'd take it away.
Well, I guess if you want to go in order, I would go in the order that they were typed: Gorgo, then Yongari, then Pulgasari. Gorgo for me is just all around. I mean, it's like, what, 77 minutes? It's a classic monster movie. You're not going to find the meaning of life in it. There is no deeper meaning to it. But if you want to watch, nature reclaim itself back from mankind and watch some really good practical effects and a really good monster suit, you'll get it with Gorgo. Yongari is kind of like, they wanted to do Godzilla, they wanted to do Gamera, they wanted to do Godzilla's Revenge, they wanted to do like a bunch of things. And it's like a mixed bag. There's a lot of fun things in that movie, but there's also a lot of like weird things. And I mean, the death of that monster is one of the worst things I've seen in any film ever. Like, just horrible. Worse than any Saw film you've ever seen. It's just, it's monstrous. And then Pulgasari, I think the backstory to that movie is more interesting than the movie itself. The history of it. Fun monster suit. I mean, I was watching it the other day. I love how like the little one looks when he's running with like the villagers to go fight the empire, the emperor and all that. Like, seeing him just next to a normal sized human is a delight. But then the big suit and all that is like, he's a great design. He looks like something you'd see in front of like a restaurant you're about to go into. Like, he looks awesome, but that movie is just, it is exactly what it is. It's it's Pulgasari. If you've seen it, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Absolutely, yeah.
Does anybody else think that Pulgasari is better than Gorgo? Like, do I have any counterpoints here for movie quality?
I don't know. Love Gorgo though. Mac McClintock, the films.
So I've spoken about Gorgo probably ad nauseum now over the past year. One weird thing about Gorgo that I noticed when we were actually trying to do the comic book that we released was there are like no female characters in the entire film. It's very straight.
One.
There's one,
she's
right?
Like she's a reporter and she says like one line to Dorkin and like that's it.
Yeah.
And they're like, this is a sausage party where this is very focused on our male characters here, which is, I mean, then Young Gary is a very much a film that feels like it's trying to do a lot, and it does some things. It does. I think that the scene where he's attacking South Korea, I mean Seoul, it looks very Showa, and it looks like it's living into kind of the, the themes of that era. And I love the little tanks. I really love the little tanks that you get to see in the film. They look exactly like toys, which makes it very easy for me to make them look like how they do in the film, because they were just toys. And Pulgasari is such an interesting film, as Nick said, just because of how it was made compared to like any other film, because you're having to watch something that like someone was forced to make and direct. It's not like you're having a free will experience. So I think Pulgasari is really interesting. I like the little baby costume, as Nick mentioned, running with the people. It's part of the reason we wanted to include the baby in our set, what we're doing. And yes, I think it probably would go Gorgo, Yungary, and Pulgasari as the quality of those three.
Yeah, Adam, take it away.
Of the three, I've only seen Gorgo so far, but that one was kind of like a breath of fresh air in, like, when I was growing up watching a lot of these older monster movies. It's always like, and then they kill the monster at the end, and then they kill it at the end. But this one, it was refreshing to see. They like, oh, the family just wades up into the ocean. So I did appreciate that aspect of it for sure. But now I got to watch the other two. They're on my list.
Yeah. You definitely got to watch those other two. And I'll bring in Eli in this conversation. We watched Yongari, and I know that was the first time you watched it ever.
Yeah.
We watched it last night. And what were some of the things that, really stood out to you?
One thing I would mention is when he was like awoken after he got knocked out with pneumonia. He was awoken by that flashlight itching thing, and then he was dancing on the mountain.
One of the best scenes in that film.
It's so weird. It's such a weird subplot. Like, why did they do that?
And also,
Itching Ray.
Yeah. Wakes him up.
Yeah, not only that, but this other scene also catches my eye. When he uses his laser going from his horn for the first time, it was like a shock. It just shot from his horn and then just cut a car in half. It almost reminds me of that scene from Gamera Gauss where he cuts that car clear in half. It doesn't even explode. He does the same for an airplane in midair when it's trying to retreat.
Isn't there a saying about, good artists create and some artists steal, and they were, in some ways like stealing from Japan, right? And I don't know, did this predate Gamera versus Gauss? I'm trying to think.
I believe they brought in a bunch of Japanese effects artists actually to work on it.
Wasn't the suit designer for Yongari was like the same for all the Gamera kaiju, right?
But yeah.
And I mean, when you look at Yongari, like, picture him against like Gauss or Giron or the Showa Gamera, like he fits right in. He's got like the big glowy derpy eyes, like the skin texture is kind of like Barugan. Like he's very reminiscent to that. He's a great design. He looks awesome.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's so cool. And that classic look to it. They were watching it, the kids, and it fits right in with like the kaiju, Japanese kaiju films, but yet, you're in a different land, you're in a different nation, and there's different ways that they figure out how to defeat the kaiju, and just the way the story takes you, all the comedic elements that are thrown in there makes it in a lot of ways unlike what we're used to in Toho and Daiei, with Gamera and Godzilla films. But yeah, loved Yongari, and Gorgo, of course, is my favorite of these three because, I've just grown up with it for so long. The British version of Godzilla, and I've just said this so many times, it reminds me of so many things, and I feel like a lot of films have taken inspiration from Gorgo, and every time I tell people about Lost World Jurassic Park, Adam can attest to this, there's a lot of Gorgo in that film. You've got the mother looking for the child, the amphitheater, putting them on display for ticket sales. I mean, so much of that film is exactly what we think of as Gorgo. Obviously, it changed, took things in a different direction and all, but the mother goes home with its young, after smashing up some things in the process. So
Mommy's very angry.
that's
Classic.
it's just a fun ride. And Pulgasari, yeah, if anyone out there has not heard the story or looked up the story of Pulgasari and everything that went into kidnapping the crew to make this film, and that's just a story for an entire episode by itself, but it's definitely something you need to look into. In fact, I think there's been books written about it, and yeah, it's well documented, but such a unique animal, such a unique creature in iron eating and, coming to the rescue for the human characters and taking place, long ago in history, not with big city size skyscrapers and things for it to smash up. We're talking about feudal Korea, and I think that's it brings me back somewhat to Daimajin. Again, taking a kaiju out of the modern era and not even into the 50 to 100 years ago, but way back. I love period pieces that do that. I just wish we had a better copy, a better film quality of that film, because it's so good, but we don't get to see it in maybe the way it was supposed to be presented. And then you got a comment, and then I'll get Matt in here.
I just wanted to say real quick is that Pulgasari almost reminds me of a descendant of King Caesar.
Yeah.
Kind of like a descendant, because you said he was kind of a guardian of them.
Well, yeah, and he's very mythological, like King Caesar was. He's not.
I mean, he's sort of. They look somewhat familiar.
Similar. Yeah, similar, especially. Yeah. So yeah, Matt, take it away.
Well, I'll riff on what Eli was saying, that this they're both based on the local mythology of their regions that they come from. I believe Pulgasar or Bulgasar, however you want to pronounce it, is a mythological Korean monster of some sort. But I guess as far as the movies go, I mean, y'all have already, there's been a lot of attention already lavished upon Gorgo. But one thing that I think is interesting is that this is a little more of a factoid, but the movie was made specifically because, not specifically, but it was inspired by, I believe, the daughter of the director, because he had also directed Beast from 20,000 Fathoms and The Giant Behemoth. And I think it was at the end of Giant Behemoth or one of those movies. And they were driving. Yeah, and they were driving home after the premiere, and his daughter was really sad. And he was like, what's wrong? And she says, this is how it's quoted in like a documentary, but basically it's like, you're a bad daddy because you killed the poor beastie. And just, it's so good. And so you kind of made Gorgo as a way, because it's like, it upends the status quo a little bit, it does something different. And I think that's kind of what gives Gorgo its staying power, is that it is still, in a lot of ways, even though it's set up a precedent in a lot of ways, it still has a lot of stuff that's different about it. It has a different vibe from what you usually see, and nobody's really, made anything quite like that. I think there are little things, little nods here and there, but I love Gorgo, but Young Gary is definitely one of those movies. I feel like everybody else said it perfectly, which is like, it's all movies. It's all kaiju movies. It has that Gamera feel, especially of the first Gamera, because watching the first Gamera, you really get the idea. They're just like, we got to make a monster movie, put all the things in it. And because even Gamera saving the little kid in the first movie feels like something from a different film. Like, it feels like, why did this happen? Why did this happen? And that's kind of like what the vibe Young Gary has, where it's like, well, it's not about what makes sense. It's about, we put this scene in the movie and now it's in the movie. and it's gonna be everybody else's problem now. And I do still find the movie very charming. I think young Gary was originally supposed to be shot into space at the end of it, like Gamera, wasn't he? Because the little kid like randomly talks about how he wants to go into space or something. Or am I just mixing up that with Gamera now?
Could be.
All reptiles are becoming one reptile.
One.
The one
And,
Godzilla.
Exactly. Yeah. And like with Pulgasari, I think it's a little better than some people, that some folks like. I think folks are really dismissive of that movie in a way that I think is I think is a little unfair, just because, again, yes, the backstory is I'm not saying it's like great. I'm just saying that like there's also kind of a lot going on here, and you have to wonder how much of that is because of what's going on behind the scenes. But and there are some thematic stuff going on. Again, factoids. There's this book that Nick referenced that was that one referenced, that one over there. Yeah. The book is a Kim Jong-il production, and it's told mostly from the perspective of the director's wife, and her recollections and some interviews as well. And it's a really harrowing, it's the whole story about her and her ex-husband, who got both had gotten kidnapped, taken to North Korea, and then like it's just, the story is really something else. And when Pulgasari was made, it's very interesting because some people like to talk about that movie as though it's like, oh, it's this anti-imperialist, anti-fascist film, but it's, but Kim Jong-il allowed it to be made. And the thing is that he was an idiot. He had no sense of media literacy. He just wanted the movie to be big and exciting and to excite his emotions. He didn't know what things meant. So sorry if I'm cutting in and out there a little, but anyway, I recommend that book, at least the audiobook version, because the text version has some really disparaging things to say about Godzilla, and I don't care for it. And I think the audio version cut those parts out. So if I remember correctly. But anyway.
Interesting. That is interesting. Yeah. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently people were trampled to death trying to go see the movie in the theaters in North Korea. Like there were reports that like people were killing each other because they had never seen anything like this. They were not used to films that had characters and themes and ideas and emotional roller coasters. They were just used to propaganda films. Right. And that director is credited for kind of like changing a little bit, moving the needle slightly as far as North Koreans go, as far as obeying the state, because they wanted to see more movies. But anyway.
Interesting. Yeah. And the dynamic of North Korea, South Korea, and the fact that both of them have their kaijus, it's such an interesting dynamic that we have as history. And speaking of Pulgasari and future things to look forward to from Titanic Creations, appearances you'll be making. I'm sure you're going to be at some cons here recently. What can people look forward to from Titanic Creations and appearances you're going to be making?
So first things first is G-Fest next week. Can't believe it's already next week. It seems like years get shorter each year.
We have 4-H fairs.
So
sorry, go ahead.
The biggest thing is we're going to have samples of Young Gary, Pulgasari, and Titanicus there to be shown off. They're really good at. I'm really happy with how all three of those have turned out so far. They're going to be like something you've never seen before, as Nick Shev put it, right? And so we're going to be going to that show. That's a really big one. We're going to have some of these guys, and I can't bring a ton of them to G-Fest, but definitely get it on Friday if you want to pick up one of those guys at the convention, because it's a big box. It's a very big box. Doesn't fit into a trailer very well. But After that, we are going to be going to DesignerCon this year for the first time in November,
nice.
which is actually in Las Vegas. And the other thing I want to talk about, as far as conventions, is the people who put on the Godzilla Film Festival in San Francisco are actually doing a full 3-day long convention this year in San Francisco in September. And I think everyone should check that out. I am not saying that there should be a second larger kaiju convention that might make things better for everybody, but I definitely think it would be interesting if such a thing would exist in some way. But so I think they're calling it Godzilla Fest, and I think they just posted about it on Facebook yesterday. So definitely check that out if you guys are trying to find a alternative convention to go to throughout the year that is Godzilla related.
Awesome. And make sure everyone knows where they can find Titanic Creations, all of your social outlets, and how to reach you.
So main place is titanicreations.com. That's the big one. That's where we can take your credit cards and all the important things. Titanic Creations, and all of our socials is Titanic Creations with one C. So it's the C's blend together in the middle. And so, yeah, you can find us on X, formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. And we have a Discord group that I'm going to share on Twitter here again soon, so we can get a few more members in there.
Just like it's written there with the C is shared, right?
The website is 2 C's. And
Okay.
The socials are 1 C. It's
I
a
see.
very delicate situation with us in a cupcake factory.
I got you. So just make sure I get this correct. So that, but again, yeah, the social outlets are with the
There we
shared.
go.
So, okay. Yeah, definitely go to Titanic Creations. I know you can sign up for the newsletter and get email updates. I get them all the time, and that's great. And of course, yeah, all your social outlets, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, formerly Twitter, X now. So Nick Shev, take it from there. Shout outs, where they can reach you, and anything that you'd like to let people know about.
Well, the next thing that I'm doing, I relocated throughout the country, so I'm in a new spot now, but I'm trying out a new convention called DamnCon, and that takes place in Garland, Texas, and that's October 5th. They had it last year. It seemed like a good time. They reached out to me, wanted to see if I wanted to come and check it out and get a table. Looks fun, so I'm going to go to Texas, get some barbecue, see some kaiju stuff, hopefully sell some art. So looking forward to that in October. And for reaching out on me, the best thing to do, Instagram. I'm on Instagram as Art of Shev. That's SHEV. I think you can see it. Wait, there. Yeah, SHEV. So Art of that. I have a website, but that's more of a professional thing. But Instagram, that's where you want to go.
All right, excellent. So reach Nick Shev at Instagram and Art of Shev, where to reach you. And of course, yeah, if you Google Nick Shev, I was easily finding your website and the work you've done. Matt Frank, thank you again for being here today. Let us know, shout out some things, and where can people find you? And I think you've got some probably cons coming up, maybe.
It's constant background radiation in my life. You guys can find me over at mattfrankart.net. And I have a online shop as well, which is mattfrankart.bigcartel.com. Yes, thank you. It's and I'm on, I have a couple of different socials like Mattzilla85, Spankzilla85 for some godforsaken reason. And what's that?
He knows the Spankzilla85. Yeah.
I made that. I didn't think I was going to use Twitter for anything, so I just did that stupid name.
I love it.
I'm glad you do. Thank you. And I've got conventions. We got G-Fest this coming week, which is, it's the big one. And then right after that, it'll be right after that is Greater Austin Comic-Con, where we will have Weird Al Yankovic as a guest, which is very exciting. Yes. I may have made a little art for his appearance at the event, but It's not public yet. And then there's Corpus Christi Comic-Con, and then there's probably about 6 or 7 other conventions after that I just can't think of. But Dragon Con, Giganticon. Bob's been trying to get me out to that Godzilla Fest for a while. I need to go ahead and just do it this year. Nick, I will probably see you at DAM Con, at DamCon. They just
Oh,
reached
you're
out to
going
me
to
as
that?
well. So
Nice.
yeah, I mean, I'm gonna try. I think that weekend is free. I have like 3 or 4 different calendars I need to coalesce. But
Right. Well, I mean,
yeah,
a
so
one-day show is kind of easy to fit in. So
I mean, it's Dallas. It's only about 3 hours from here. I just hop in a car, and I mean, it's Texas. We're used to driving 5 hours to get anywhere. So, but yeah, that'll be great. It would be great to see you, because I don't think I've seen you since before the pandemic. So,
yeah,
uh,
it's been one of those things.
yeah. But those are all the things. I think I do have a big announcement that's probably coming later this year. It is literally the only thing that could have delayed State of the Monsters, which is my creator-owned thing. But I've got another big thing. It's like, fine, I'll delay it for this, but I can't talk about it yet. So you'll see. You'll all see.
Yeah,
You will. Well, all right. And thank you, Adam, for last minute becoming a co-host. I really appreciate having Adam on the show, and you got to check out his show. I'll let him shout it out and where you can find him and what's coming up with you.
Yeah, it's Thursday Toys right here on YouTube. I do kaiju cocktails and figure reviews every Thursday. I also sell figures on Whatnot. But yeah, I'm looking forward to like running around the conventions with you guys. We got G-Fest coming up. I'm gonna be at Kaiju Go. I'm gonna try to go to the one in San Francisco because I was looking at flights. It's like $100 from Seattle, so I'm like, yep, got to do that.
Yeah.
And then Designer Con. And I'm like Thursday Toys in Vegas. I have to.
Right.
Vegas?
Awesome. Serving some drinks. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and what he's got going on his YouTube channel is outstanding work, and I just want to support the heck out of him because of what he does. Another kaiju content creator. We work better together, and that's why I wanted to have Adam on this, and this is awesome. So, and rounding this out, we have the Monster Report, and we have
The Mini Monster Report.
on YouTube. Follow us out there. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and on X. And of course, it's always Monster Report, monsterreport.com with one R, kind of like shared R that you have there. It's all the social outlets like that. And we've got a lot of cool box days coming up, figure reviews. Love to go to cons, but they're always seems to be during something that we have, family oriented, and family comes first. So like 4-H Fair is always during G-Fest, and any of the others, it's just difficult to get to. So one day maybe we'll get back out to some cons and see everyone in person again, because it's definitely time. We're past the pandemic, well past it. I'd love to see all of you guys out there in person, some at some cons. That'd just be awesome. And Mac and I and Eli went to Tucson, and we had a great time there and hung out for a bit. And there's just got to be more of these things. And so again, thank you everyone for being here on this episode of the Monster Report, talking all things Titanic Creations. Got some awesome stuff coming out, and I just look forward to seeing everything that you've got coming out as we go. So stick around just for a couple of minutes after we go off the stream here, gentlemen, and we'll say our proper goodbyes. Otherwise, thank you all for joining us another episode of the Monster Report Live. We'll see ya.
Bye.